Hello! Welcome back.
Welcome back. We are jumping in.
Yes, it's week 3.
Chapters 9 through 12.
Yeah. Week 3 of 4. We're almost done. We're over halfway there after this.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
4 more chapters left of the book.
Yes.
Oh, the book, Heavy Rain. I feel like, I know we just went live, but I feel like we didn't actually go live yet. So give me a second. I need to turn my energy on. I'll get there.
Still channeling.
I'm like, okay, this is happening right now. Okay.
It is. It's happening. Whether you like it or not, we're here.
So if you are just now hopping on, we're so glad to have you. You might be watching the replay, and we're really excited to have you watch the replay with us. We're going to cover some really interesting topics tonight. We're going to do our study a little differently than what we have in past weeks. So stay tuned, watch. We have some great conversation that's going to happen, and we would love to have you join the conversation, even if you're not reading the book, and even if you're not watching live, even if you're watching the replay. So
right, yeah.
Should we do disclaimers? We don't really have disclaimers this week.
Not this week because it is different. We are going to just kind of focus in on one burning question, and we're just kind of going to give you a really short summary of the rest of it for reasons that we will explain in a minute. So just join the discussion and have fun with us, and know that we do not know what we are going to say.
We are really on the fly this week. We've read our chapters.
Listen,
we have
brief
prepared
discussion,
but
I actually haven't searched my soul yet on the answer to the burning question, so it could just come out spontaneously.
It might come out as a hot mess.
It's authentic. So, okay. So what we were doing was reading chapters 9 through 12 for this last book study. And actually chapter 9 was a special addition into the book after this was originally published. And it's about Isis. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So in the introduction, Chris talked about how he revised the book. And in the revision, they added in chapter 9. And it is covering ISIS, a lot of the political things that happened around, that were, going on around ISIS. I know that even since that chapter was written, a lot has changed. It's not even very current in the details of our current situation.
Political situation.
Yeah, the current political situation. And as Ashton and I discussed it, I think what he's talking about in the chapter is great. It's a great overview. I guess at this point you could look at it as a historical recap of what had happened up until the point that he wrote the chapter, but we just don't feel like it's relevant to the discussion. It kind of feels like it was it just feels like it was just thrown in the middle of the conversation. It's good material, but because there's a lot of political there's just a lot of political conversation in that chapter. Yeah. We just think it's something that you need to discover and read and journey through on a personal level, and maybe not in such a public forum.
Yeah, it was really great. It was challenging. It was also convicting, but it was also I was thinking to myself, depending on where people are at politically, it could be tense. So we're just nah, it's more of a personal journey kind of thing. So just read it. It's fun. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Oh yeah, look, Dan Putman is joining us.
We have
Dan,
a special guest
have
here.
Your wife held hostage off to the side here, so say hi.
Hello.
She's hanging out with us in the background.
She is.
I'm the audience.
She's my buddy for the night. Okay, so the rest of this is actually going to be not too long of a discussion. We looked at chapters 10, 11, and 12 as kind of a culminating group of chapters. Mm-hmm. And basically what Chris Valentin did here was he posed the psychology behind courage and how people step out in courage, and the hiccups to that with crowd mentality, and then what he did was he went on this breakdown of so many examples from history and from the Bible of people who stepped out in greatness, and why they did it, how they did it, and a lot of it was just centering around because they believed they could, and that history is often made because the one person is willing to step out because they believe they can make that difference and do that thing or break that record or change history. So when we looked at it, we felt like it summed down by chapter 12 to one really good question that we kind of wanted to pose to you guys, which we put in the description of, leaders are destined for greatness, and God wants to walk with them to this place of greatness and helping people make a difference. But the key element of that is humility. So how do people walk in greatness and also have humility? So that's a question I think that we all will wrestle with till the end of time, because we all want to believe in ourselves that we can do great things. We all want to believe that we can make a difference, but we also want to make sure that we're not letting our egos run away with us, and we want a system of checks and balances for our heart, basically. So that's where we're going tonight, and that's where we're going to stay. It's going to be a shorter session, but we're hoping for a really good discussion. We have some people hanging out with us, so I hope you'll join in on the discussion with us. Basically, we're going to start here on page 182. We're just going to read to you. There are 15 keys that Chris points out. He says, here are 15 true attributes of humility that must remain in our lives as God exalts us. And we just thought they were amazing. And so we thought this would be a really great place to start. So I'm going to read those. And if you want to put the question up there.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll read 5, you read 5. Should we popcorn?
We can popcorn.
Okay. All right. So number 1, we must remain teachable. That is a really good one. Number 2, we have to be influenceable. Number 3, we have to be able to receive correction without defending ourselves. It's a hard one.
It's a hard one.
Number 4, we must rejoice when others are celebrated. Number 5, no one can be too small for us.
No job.
Oh, Freudian slip.
It's okay.
Sorry. Okay, go.
Okay, number 6, we don't always have to be right. Number 7, we should naturally seek the advice of others. Number 8, we actually do pray and not just talk about it. Number 9, we freely admit our flaws, mistakes, and failures. 10, we have to live to help others succeed.
Number 11, we cannot be easily offended. 12, we have to have a thankful attitude. 13, we must refuse to live with a sense of entitlement, thinking someone owes us something. Number 14, we have to be quick to forgive and not hold grudges. And number 15, we have to be confident in who we are and content with who we are not. That is really good. I don't know. I just love that. And I will say that I kind of wanted to type this out and put it up in my workspace just so I never forget these things, and that I'm always striving towards this. So I guess my first question is of those, which ones triggered you? Was there one that we said where you were like, ooh, that's a really good one. I don't have that, or I don't do that well yet. I'm learning. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys.
What about you, Action? Which one stood out the most to you? Ooh, I need to. Are you willing to be vulnerable and go there?
Yeah. Okay, well, so I'll digress just a little bit and be vulnerable here. So number 1, we must remain teachable. I have had a long journey with this. I am a former teacher, and when I was going to school to become a teacher, I actually had a circumstance where I got into a legal battle with one of my teachers. And the reason for it was because he tried to put something in my file that said I was not committed to being a lifelong learner, aka being teachable. And I was so offended, so offended, because I consider myself a really teachable person. And basically, long story short, I'll just try to sum it up for you really quick. The whole reason he tried to put that in my file was because I was refusing to say that his perspective was right. And he asked us to write papers that basically validated his perspective, and I couldn't do that. I wrote the paper that reflected that it wouldn't work. He was a big fan of John Dewey, and I just said I didn't believe that it would work in today's society, and he was so angry with me that he tried to take me down. He tried to kick me out of the program.
Oh my gosh.
Because I just disagreed with him. And he kept telling me that I was not a lifelong learner, that I wasn't open to other people's perspectives, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. In the end, things worked out. I did not get it put in my file. Justice prevailed, but that is one that I am continually convicted of. Always be teachable, always be teachable. At first it was out of fear, but now it's because I've seen such growth in just continuing to be teachable. So anyway, vulnerable story about how number one just smacked me in the face in college. But
can I just commend you though, because it took a lot of courage for you to fight back. A lot of people would not fight for themselves when something like that was thrown at them. Mm-hmm. They would just take a very passive approach and just accept what was given to them because it's an intimidating person that they're up against. And the fact that you didn't let him intimidate you and you didn't back down from your conviction, the courage and the boldness that you had was amazing.
Thank you. You're always so encouraging on here, girl.
Well, I mean it. I'm not just saying it.
No, it was really hard. It was standing up for what I believed was showing other people that I wasn't teachable. And that was so hard because it was I felt like I had to compromise thinking for myself to show that I was a lifelong learner, which was just, I just wasn't willing to compromise. And that was hard. So
it's funny because there's actually a portion of this in these chapters where Chris talks about how
refusing,
there's this crowd mindset, and a lot of people just have their opinions based on the crowd, and they don't think for themselves, and they are almost afraid to have an opinion that's different than the crowd because they'll think that they're wrong. They just automatically assume that the crowd is moving in the right direction. He kind of based it off the parable of the sheep and how they're all just looking at each other's bottoms as they're moving along in the flock, trusting that there's a shepherd actually leading them. And I love that you went against the grain and that you weren't afraid to go against the rest of your class. They all wrote a paper that supported his view, but you didn't, and that's amazing. You went against the crowd, and
it took
Chris D would cheer you on,
right? Maybe he will in February.
Maybe.
No, I'm just kidding.
If we tell him your story,
he's coming to MLMP. Just not so shameless plug for More Love, More Power.
Come to MLMP.
Anyway, okay. What about you? And people, feel free to comment on the thread. What ones are convicting you? I'm gonna let Cassie go, and if we still don't have any responses, I will awkwardly read them again and encourage you and do the pregnant pause while people respond.
Yeah.
So okay. Which one convicted you?
Oh gosh, there were a couple of them that did. I'll just say one that stands out to me a little bit is we must rejoice when others are celebrated. Mm-hmm. That's not always hard. It's not hard if it's somebody I love and respect and who I see the merit in being celebrated. If I see the merit in their work or whatever. But if it's somebody who I don't see the value in what they're being celebrated for, it's really hard for me to rejoice with them. So I guess maybe I need some work on maybe just the way I view people or something like that. And I don't know. I can just think of some situations where there was just times where I was like, what?
Yeah.
They got rewarded for that. They got promoted or, are you kidding me?
I know.
Yeah. So I can just think about that.
It's hard depending on how you hold them in your minds. And
yeah.
Clearly I don't. That's why we need God.
You have to assume in that situation you don't have the full picture, that the person who is celebrating them or promoting them sees them in a different light. But it's hard in those moments where you're like, but do you even know this about them? Do you even know? So I think that one's a little bit hard for me. Oh gosh, what other ones would stand out for me? I would love to be just as vulnerable as you, but I don't think I have a story that would be that vulnerable.
It's okay.
Oh man, I think this one, we must refuse to live with a sense of entitlement, thinking someone owes us something. I realized I had been out of the workforce for a while, and last year I went back into the workforce. And when I went back into the workforce, there was a leadership position that was open for hire. And watching just the social dynamics of what happened in the workplace as people were applying for that position and the way they talked about each other, I guess I just like, I was amazed by the level of entitlement that I saw, you know? And like, just realizing like even in myself at times where I had that mindset. In that situation, I was like a part-time employee. I was not going for the promotion. So I was just like a bystander, like watching all of this play out. And I just remember just being amazed, like, you know, somebody was like, I've worked harder. I've put in this much overtime. I've done this and I've done that. And then another person would be like, that person shows up late all the time for work. Are you kidding me? They should have been written up 10 times. But management always overlooks when they show up late because they just want, you know, that kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
And these people who are so entitled, thinking that they deserve this position, are the ones who are like looking for this leadership position. It was just like very perspective giving for me, like realizing that there had been times that I have also been in that spot where I'm like, I deserve this. I've worked hard for this. You know, and just a heart check, like remembering, like, actually, I don't deserve anything. Like everything I have is a gift from God. It's all because of what Jesus did for me. Like, anything that is good that comes into my life is from him, and it's even if it's like my work ethic brought this promotion, he's the one who enabled me to work. Like there are people who are literally on disability or social, they can't even work. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like the skills, the abilities that we have, that's all a gift from God. So how can we feel entitled for anything? But you have to like remind yourself of that, because you can really stray quickly.
I actually love, like, going along with what you're saying. It reminded me of, on page 181, it says, the truth of God's grace humbles a man without degrading him and exalts a man without inflating him. And so, you know, tonight we are talking about humility and greatness, and what does it look like to believe in yourself, you know, because, so is it Chris Valentin who always says, like, or maybe it's not him, but they said, you know, being humble doesn't mean thinking less about yourself. It just means thinking about yourself less.
Yeah,
And
he actually gives a definition right above where you were just reading.
Oh, cool.
And he says, humility is not feeling bad about yourself or thinking that you are little, insignificant, or anything else demeaning. True humility begins with remembering the source of your greatness, the King of Heaven. And then it goes on with what Ashton had already read.
Yeah. So I'm just curious how you guys have balanced that, you know, having humility, but also being able to think of yourself as someone who's capable and destined for greatness. What does that look like to you, or what mindsets do you guys hold that helps you kind of stay in that right heart posture for great, you know, for being open to what God wants to do in that area to help you attain greatness, but also be able to walk in humility? I know these are really burning, challenging questions.
Yeah.
Still no one's commenting.
It's okay.
It's all right.
They're processing, just like we are.
They are. It's cool.
It's okay. I was thinking about how it's just, at times, if you don't think you're great, if you don't think that there's any kind of greatness living inside of you, you will never take risks. You will never have faith to actually step out and do anything, even small things, you know? And I think it's like, we all have to understand, like, there's greatness inside of us because we were made in the image of God. Like, every single human has greatness. You don't even have to be a natural leadership type of person, a personality who people would easily label as a leader. Like, you were created with greatness because you were created in the image of God, like the greatest being. Like, I mean, you know, so like every person has greatness inside of them.
Yeah. So
to deny that you don't have greatness inside of you is like almost like not even, it's like denying God or denying worshiping him, because he created you. Of course you were made with greatness. Of course there's potential inside of you. The greatness inside of me is going to be completely different than the potential of greatness inside of everybody else. But yeah, I think like our insecurities, these things that come up that we like talk ourselves out of, what he was talking about, like thinking of yourself as insignificant, like that's like smacking God in the face and saying like what you created isn't actually all that great. And I don't want to do that, you know? I want to believe that what he's made is good.
Yeah. I catch myself doing that a lot, where I'm demeaning myself, you know? And I think when I've reflected upon like, why do I do that? Or like, what is that from? I think it's this like belief system, which I know is not from God, but it's a belief system that like I know that I have the capability of God's greatness inside of me, but I'm just not there yet. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's always what I tell myself when I'm self-deprecating, you know, is just I'm not I'm on the journey, but I'm just not even close to like what could be great. I'm not there yet. But really what that's doing is inserting my own self-effort into it and not allowing God to work through me. That's the supernatural part, right? Is like allowing him to work through me and let his greatness shine through me and not taking the credit, you know. Sometimes I love when he does that, like with John's and my marriage thing, you know. It's like it's really easy, you know, for people to give laud for us, you know, oh, you guys are doing so great. It's like, yeah, but I can't take credit for that. Like the Holy Spirit worked through us, through John, through me. Like it was, we were totally under his grace and his peace. And I could say that, yeah, I mean, we did a lot of good things, but the greatness that came out of the restoration of that marriage relationship was all God. And it was his greatness shining through our marriage. Like, and that's still today what it is. So I don't want to take credit for that, although I'm really excited that he's choosing to use me for it. But I feel it's like easier for me to walk in humility when it comes to that specific thing, because I know that I haven't self-efforted that thing to death. Like I haven't strived and like made it to a place where I'm like, well, I'm doing this and I did all these things and I'm taking tallies of all the things that I've done to get to that place. Like I'm not doing any of that because I know like, nope, God did a lot of that and I just allowed him to.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I think the greatness in that is that you said yes.
Yes.
He empowered your yes, but you said yes. And you didn't say yes once. You said yes every day. You said yes time and time again. And so did John. Like you both said yes and he partnered with your yes. And that's where the fruit of what happened was birthed out of. But that wouldn't have happened if you wouldn't have said yes. In fact, many people live very...
And that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, that's what I said yes, but I didn't make all those things happen that happened to restore our marriage. Actually, God did all of that through both of us and is now still using it through both of us for very little self-effort on our part, you know? So not trying to downplay what he's done. What he did was great, and we love that he's doing it. But it's easy to walk in humility with it because it's like, I never lost sight of the fact that like, dude, this is all God doing this. Like, I'm just kind of along for the ride and it's amazing. So I wonder if that's kind of a key component is like how you're viewing the situation. Are you viewing it as partnering with the Holy Spirit in each and every step? Or are you viewing it as God gave me like a prophetic word to do the thing and then I did all these things in a self-effort based way? Because I wonder if that's kind of where you start to get the jealousy that creeps in and like the entitlement issues is when you're doing things on your own and then expecting to be like applauded for it. And when you don't get that, you know, I don't know, just where my brain went for that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think you talked about that a little bit too previously in the book. Like the things that you accomplish by force, you have to maintain by force.
Yeah.
And the things that like, I think that's like good to remember. Like all God is looking for is your yes. And he's going to bring things into your life in the seasons that you are like, that he is ready to give you the grace to walk in. And you can have a dream in your heart, but if you're just going to like, I don't know, you see it a lot. People who are really, really, really striving and like trying to accomplish things that like maybe God's grace isn't on, and it is hard to watch that happen sometimes. But if God's grace is on it, like a lot of times you'll find yourself in the most obscure situations, things you wouldn't have actually realized were part of like the dream will play out, but it will play out in ways you never imagined it was going to play out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, so as I'm thinking here and we're getting ready to end the conversation, I feel led to just kind of leave you guys with a challenge. And the challenge is, you know, as you're watching the live and reflecting on the things that we're saying, because what we're asking is not easy. I get that. Like, we weren't even fully prepared to answer the question. So, you know, no worries about that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the descriptions of humility one more time. And then I'm going to leave you just with the challenge of when you're ready and when you've reflected on it, we just ask that you would come back to the live thread and just post your response to this question. You know, how is it that God's calling you to believe in yourself? Like, what is he stirring in you that he believes that there's greatness in you for something, you know, and how do you partner that with the humility piece? And it can be like digressions of that, pieces of that, or just things that he's kind of giving away to you for that. But I just would love to hear other people's perspectives on how to do this. Like, how do you do this? Because this is just my perspective and your perspective, and, you know, we're here to facilitate a discussion. So we're going to go through them one more time, and then we'll leave you with that, okay? Number 1, you must remain teachable. 2, you have to be influenceable. 3, we have to be able to receive correction without defending ourselves. 4, we must rejoice when others are celebrated. 5, no job can be too small for us. Why do I struggle on that one every time?
And number 6, we don't know. Okay, well, we don't always have to be right. You don't always have to say things right. It's okay. We should naturally seek the advice of others. That's number 7. Number 8, we actually do pray and not just talk about it. 9, we must freely admit our flaws, mistakes, and failures. 10, we have to live to help others succeed. 11, we cannot be easily offended. 12, we have to have a thankful attitude. 13, we must refuse to live with a sense of entitlement, thinking someone owes us something. You want to do the last 2?
Oh, yeah. 14, we have to be quick to forgive and not hold grudges. And 15, we have to be confident in who we are and content with who we are not. And again, these are things that, you know, attributes of humility that Chris is encouraging us to have as God does elevate us into greatness. But we're asking you the question of, like, how does that come into play with just the very fact of believing in yourself for all that God has for you? So what are your challenges? What are your hiccups? What are the things that are rolling through your head as we kind of bring this section to a close? So anyway, looking forward to hearing from you guys, and happy Tuesday. Happy Thanksgiving this week.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining us during a crazy week.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys, you know, in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
Bye.